moving right along.
Wow. I think we should move
That's
on.
what happened. That's what happened in the book, in the stories I was told when I was a kid.
Yep.
It's true. You offer to fix the world, and what happens, Leah?
Sounds terrible. Just sounds terrible.
It's an awful
Time for
story, isn't it?
nutrition.
G'day.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Today
Good.
we thought we'd talk about workplace.
Yeah, that was
Yes.
Aaron's big question
Yes, it was
from
my
last
question,
week.
because-
Workplace nutrition.
And we had a little talk about that earlier before we come on. Is the fact that most people die about 3 o'clock, and
Not literally
ultimately-
die,
Yeah, but if
but
you're a
the
boss,
energy levels just.
seriously, if you're a boss of a company, why even roster people on for 8 or 9 hours? You can only get 6 hours work out of them, probably at best.
But do you see what you're saying? When you think about it, that food's actually powering the nation. Food powers all productivity. So if people actually take the time when they're employing others to actually think about nutrition and how they can teach their workers about good nutrition, if they can provide good fluids, on stream, and provide good snacks, healthy snacks rather than healthy boxes, and think a little bit about how different types of activities, different types of jobs actually have different health problems and different nutrition problems, then hey, our output as a nation would be so much bigger.
Productivity would be higher.
It would be huge.
Well, we get those factories where they feed the staff.
They do.
They have
They
cafeterias
do.
and things.
And the Heart Foundation is very involved with that and setting up canteens. So, there's lots of things that workplace people can tap into, lots of good resources out there. But the thing that I've become interested in over the years, working in my job as a dietitian, is noticing how different types of jobs have got different health issues and definitely different food issues.
Oh, so there's
So
the
I'm
same
gonna-
repetitions all the time.
Yes, see, certain categories of jobs. For instance, last week we talked about sports nutrition, right?
Yep.
Well, if you look at jobs that are very high-powered, like people who are in mining, people like farmers who are doing fencing, logging industry, people shearing,
Yeah.
the amount of effort they put in is really needing sports nutrition. And that also carries with it a lot of dehydration, a lot of health issues. Then you get people who are in the food industry, hospitality, chefs. I've worked with people like wine writers and food writers and cream tasters. Imagine all the health issues that go with that.
Yeah.
Sampling 300 samples of cream a day. I had this guy I was working with in London once, and he had to sample 300 samples of cream, and his cholesterol was through the roof.
It would
Oh,
be.
was it? Okay.
Yeah, because although he spat it out, he still was swallowing some samples of it. So,
Yeah.
and then you get travellers. What about bus drivers, taxi
Oh,
drivers?
travellers are the worst.
They have a big problem because
Drivers
they're on their
and
butt.
people on
Yeah.
tour and things like that.
And grabbing
sales
things on the
reps.
go.
Exactly, and sometimes too they're worried about their load. Like if they're truckies and they've got a load, they may have problems with getting toileting issues, things like
Yep.
that. So they don't want to drink.
Yeah.
So because they're not hydrated, they end up with problems with
Or
their
they
weight.
only drink sugar drinks.
Well, often that's what happens. That's what
They're
happens.
just on soft drinks, they're not on waters.
It can be a problem, but I think people are waking up to it more now, so that's exciting.
All right.
But this job's also like, what about captive people? Like surgeons and people who are like theatre sisters, and they're only in their
The doctors
environment
are.
for spare time.
Unhealthy, generally.
Well, they can be, but they need help.
I think
So
they're
the
terrible.
point is to think about your own workplace and think about what you could do to make it healthier. And a lot of executives, for instance, go out to business lunches, and people are working in office buildings may have difficulty because at lunchtime when they go out, the sort of foods that are available in cafes. It's not expensive, but if you're doing it every day,
Yeah.
you can end up taking a lot of extra fat and putting on a lot of extra weight.
Sure. So what's the idea then? Because you're saying there's all sorts of different issues around, where you're working.
Yeah.
But how do you plan ahead so that whether you're a truck driver, an office worker,
Yeah.
sales rep, whatever you are,
Yeah. Good question.
you're going to have that right food at the right
Yeah,
time?
I think the key is to always take food with you. If you can't be sure that you're going to have a lunch provided for you, first of all, start out with a really good breakfast, and we're going to talk about breakfast in a minute. I think it's a really important thing, get breakfast right. And then make sure that you've also got some lunch backup. If you haven't figured out what you're going to do for lunch, at least take something with you and be aware of things like your drinks through the day. And also, as a group, think about how you can exercise, because a lot of workplaces now are putting in gyms and they're encouraging their staff to get together and get on to, joining into marathons and all that sort of thing. Because if you can up the staff's exercise, you keep them healthy, so you keep them working for a whole lot longer. And night staff also is another big area. We have people working through the night, cleaners, people working in our roads. And because if they're working, they haven't got as much opportunity to exercise when they get home, and they go home and they just fall into bed,
Employers, I think, are better off to, say, arrive at 9 or 8:45 and clock the staff on, pay them for 15 minutes of jogging. Just say, right, come out as a group and we're just going to run around the block and back
Well,
in,
that'd
and
be
then we'll start work. And the productivity is way higher because there's more oxygen in the brain, the body feels better, they're going to have less sick days, but we're just not there as a nation. Some are.
Some are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you also need to have something that's weather resistant. Obviously, you can't run around the block in the rain, or something. Not everybody can.
EJ can.
I bet you could too. So,
So you're going to talk about breakfast.
I think we should.
As Kiwis,
think
don't we eat
about
back
it.
to front? We have big dinner at night. And
Which is
our
supposed to be the
breakfasts are on the
smallest
run,
meal,
they're
isn't it?
small, and you must have seen that over the
I
years.
do. I think our greatest challenge this week, down to week 3 of our 12-week challenge, is to encourage people to think about their breakfast, what they're actually doing. Start watching what you have. If you just have carbohydrate, you're going to be hungry in a couple of hours.
Yeah.
If you can put some protein in there, like some cheese on your toast or an egg, or maybe some yogurt, that will carry you for 4 hours right through the morning, so you'll get through your day much better.
One thing I find with eggs, because I eat eggs on toast all the time, and I always get the comment, oh, aren't they fattening? A lot of girls won't eat eggs because they think that they're going to put on weight. Is that true?
No. It comes down to how you cook it. Like anything,
Yeah.
you can put on weight if you fry everything.
Yeah.
But if you poach an egg or scramble it, there would be those people out there that say have an egg every day, and you
Yeah.
could. But the problem is if you do that, then you're pushing away other foods you might be eating that have got higher calcium levels, like your cheesy yogurt and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But
So-
only if you're swapping them out. But most people would be an egg versus a slice of toast, so it's a carb versus. And
Both.
well, they should be having a mix, but most people will go, but they won't. They'll go, I'll have 2 bits of toast with some jam on, and that's their breakfast. Whereas a boiled egg and 1 slice of toast is a lot better breakfast, isn't it?
Well, it's all about the timing. You see, foods go through you at different rates of time. So things like a piece of toast, for instance, would be within a couple of hours. Its carbohydrate would be mostly digested. But when you put protein on top of it, like a cheese slice or an egg, that's going to coat the carbohydrate, and the protein will slow the breakdown of the whole meal. So that it'll last you more like 4 or 5 hours instead of just 2.
Out of the carbohydrates as well.
Yeah. Well, carbohydrates are gone within a couple of hours, no matter how many you have of them.
Yeah.
But when you put protein in, I mean, we just don't eat one food, do we? We eat a mixture of foods, and when they're in your stomach, they react differently. So it's the timing that's really important.
So why do we eat like that, Leah, versus animals seem to eat a lot less and have less problems? Do you know what I mean? As in they eat a lot less variety.
Yeah.
And if you look back at countries like Niue and things, they were really healthy. If you look back to the 1920s, they're very athletic looking. Their main source of diet was coconut and fish. There's bugger all anything else. They certainly had no
True.
flour and sugar and all that kind of
It was the
stuff.
same in New Zealand. When Captain Cook came to New Zealand, he described the Maori people as being the indigenous people were lean and they had fantastic teeth and they had great skin. And when you get down to it, their diet was mainly based on, they had a lot of fish, so they had a lot of polyunsaturated fats. They had a lot of flaxes and berries and things like that. They still had the fibre coming through. So what you're really saying is the type of foods may not look the same, but in actual fact, chemically they are, is what we are available today. Obviously, we've now got a lot more food available to us, which is higher in fat. And so in the workplace, you get more fat available to you. But once you know what to actually look out for, and that's what dietitians teach, then you can just find food anywhere.
Yeah.
It's just knowing what to look out for, and more importantly, how to make it last longer, which goes full circle back to our subject about workplace nutrition. If you get it right, you get more out of your work staff. You get them for longer. They're not hungry. They're happier. They're more motivated. They can think straight, and everybody wins. The country wins because we get higher productivity, better output, and everyone's happy. They stay enjoying their job for longer.
And the health bill will go down.
Perfect.
I did feel better, more
Yeah.
energetic, and think straight.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Lee.
Pleasure.
Thanks for coming in. That's interesting.
Okay, great.
I'm going to be coating my carbohydrates and protein from now on.
Oh, you should be.
We're going to come back very soon with more on the Daily Fix.